start off with on a global scale, then I'll hand it over to Cowboy and Z, and these guys will break it down even further. So we're going to start off to really understand the financial game. This is a perspective that I love to bring to the table versus a lot of other people. You got to look at in order to understand what's going on in the U.S. In the crypto market in particular, you got to look at what's going on around the world. Okay, what we're seeing here is this. Okay, and months ago, I was on one of my programs, Dave, where I said specifically, you know what, there's going to be a flight. This is sometime in 2017, I was saying this. I had my friend and colleague, Charles Hugh Smith. He was on with me as well. And we both put out a prediction back in early 2017 where we said the fissures that are happening in the bond market. And what do we see today, Dave? We see massive, massive problems in the bond market. I've been screaming about it since 2012. I've been writing about it since then. And then those fissures you're seeing that pressure coming on. You're seeing recently, just last week, you see the split, the divergence in the LIBOR OIS rate, okay, which is a massive signature, and I'm not going to waste my time explaining it here. You folks can look at it yourself. The LIBOR OIS rate is a very telling sign of trouble and chaos. And folks, here's the deal. All this is back pressure created in the bond market. And one of the things that I said, and my colleague Charles Hugh Smith has said, we both said this, and Charles, he writes for his own blog as well as for Zero Hedge. We both said this. There's going to be a flight to safety. Okay, and then this is going to coincide with a march up in equities, in commodities, gold, silver, and in cryptocurrencies. Why? Because investors, institutional investors, and sovereigns are going to look for safe harbors. They cannot find those safe harbors in reliable, safe, quote-unquote, investments like the U.S. dollar, like U.S. treasuries. And we said this, Dave, way before any sort of trade war rumors were starting, before any sort of tariffs were announced. We said this, that this was going to happen. But you see, it is happening. It is happening. Sovereign institutions are looking for a flight to safety. Okay? They're looking for a flight to safety, but they're not going to come into Bitcoin at 20,000. Okay? Just like as I said when I detailed this months ago, they're not going to come into an equities market sitting at 25 or 26,000. Okay? And folks, I was saying that the Dow is going to go to 29,000 back when it was 15,000, when everybody's saying it's going to crash tomorrow to 5,000, and it never happened. So we're going to have that march. They need to put all this excess funds, which are the dump dollars that are happening with the treasuries market, they need to dump it somewhere. They need to put it somewhere. And that leaves equities, that leaves gold, and I work in the international physical metals market, and I can tell you right now, physical metals on a large scale is being bought up. Last year, in 1 month, my partner and I in Hong Kong, we did 110 metric tons of silver in 1 month. 110 metric tons. So the physical is being dried up. Why? Because even though the prices on paper seem to be beaten down, seem to be low, seem to be, oh my God, panic in the marketplace, even if that's what it seems, the smart investors are moving in. They don't want to come into a cryptocurrency market with a Bitcoin valued at 20,000. No. They like to jump in at 5. They like to jump in at 6. And that's what you're seeing, these massive sell-offs in the crypto markets. They're not going to come into the Dow at 26,000. They're going to come in at the low 20s. They want to come in at 18, 19, and then ride it up. They don't want to come into gold at 17,000 or 15,000. They want to come in at 12. They want to keep it around 13. This is the get-out period for all the weak hands, for all the chickens to fly the coop, to get out of the way, for all the shaky hands speculators to get out. Why? Because the sharks are coming into the bay. The big boys are coming to play, and they're positioning themselves for a massive run. You're going to see this. How do I know you're going to see this? China is embracing cryptocurrencies. They're embracing blockchain technology. Russia's embracing cryptocurrencies. They're embracing blockchain technologies. All these things are happening, and what is seen as by some as some sort of an end all, oh my God, it's the end of the world, man. Those that are smart seeing this as opportunities. And the guys that we're working with today, Z and Cowboy and Frank, they have done favorably, above and beyond, incredibly well in a down market like this, Dave. Nick, Z, you guys want to add to that?
Sure. Yeah. So we are a big believer in protecting portfolios. We actually minimize risk because, well, it's really simple. We exercise a certain way of doing stop losses. So I have been stymied at the amount of people who have come to watch us trade. And by the way, just a side note here, anything that we say about Bitcoin or trading or anything, all this is purely for entertainment value. None of it is intended as investment advice. None of it is intended for you to use or anybody to use for financial gain. So, go ahead and put out the disclaimer. We definitely see a downtrend as an opportunity because, first of all, between Z and I, who have very different strategies, Z and I have been working together for like 5 years, but in crypto for a portion of that. And between the two of us, we're able to have an idea of when there's going to be a drop. And when we do, we go ahead and we stop out into dollars. And then when that drop is done or potentially done, we buy back in. And then we go ahead and we set it up to automatically stop out. It's called a stop loss. And it's just, that's so key. And everything that V said, about what's happening with the economy, there are too many big players making money on Bitcoin for them to kill it. If they'd have killed it, they were going to kill it. They tried to kill it already. I think they're trying to slow it down. And I think they're trying to push out the speculators and get themselves in at a much lower price.
This is Frank, by the way. I think what we're seeing, in addition to all obviously the market forces that V and Cowboy were just talking about, and we just had this emotional, massive run up where all of a sudden the crypto markets got everyone's attention. And I'm sure this is true for the other guys on the call. Christmas time, we were all helping people open their Coinbase accounts, right? When we were at our Christmas parties. I think a lot of people involved in crypto had that experience. And the market was going to this incredible new high. And it's a very emotional situation. And a lot of those new investors got burned. And so for them, it seems like, it was this big fad. It was the next tulip mania. And we're done with that. But the thing is, in addition to all the market factors that V brought up, we have innovation taking place here. It's an innovation that's going to transform the way the world does business. And we're seeing evidence in government. We're seeing evidence around the world. And a lot of big players don't want to kill it. They may want to slow it down. We see evidence of that with what happened with Mt. Gox and stuff. At least we think, we were speculating as to why they did the ridiculous thing that they recently did to bring the price down. But there's another insight here, and I think we got this originally from Cliff High, and we talked about this with him in an interview we did not too long ago with him. And that's is not only are we looking at market cycles in cryptocurrency, but even more important, we're looking at a technology adoption cycle as much, if not more, than a market cycle. So I like to say to people, saying cryptos is over and it's done is a lot like that guy you knew who told you to stop wasting your time setting up email accounts in 1993. It seems like, this thing's never going to take off, and it was a big fad. It got really exciting, and now it's on its way down. See, told you so. And it's like, no, there's people are changing the way that they're doing business with cryptos, and there's so many innovations that are going to be so profitable and make life better for so many people around the world. The idea that we're done just because we had an emotional up and down in the market, I think that's very short-sighted. I think we're going to see, and not to mention that even the SEC in their hearing not too long ago, I'm not sure if it was the SEC or the CFTC, was saying, there's not that much money in this in terms of global markets, right? To those of us who are involved in it day to day and are profiting from it, it seems like there's plenty of money there. There's plenty of money to be made in the markets in good times and bad times, as Crypto Cowboy said, which is one of the things those guys are amazing at, is making the most out of bear markets. They're great at that. But if you look at the amount of money that is in the crypto market, it's actually it's chump change. The big money has not come in yet. The big money is just getting interested in the technology. And so we haven't even finished taking the plastic off of the cryptocurrency market. It's really just getting started. So the original question, Dave, is it time to get in or time to get out? I think it's absolutely something people should be considering getting in. Or I shouldn't say that because Cowboy will yell at me for giving financial advice. I should say if it were me and I weren't in, I'd be figuring out a way to get in because I think there's a very bright future for crypto and the global economy.
Do you think with the Mt. Gox, because if you look at the graph, you can see that every time they dumped Bitcoin, it brought down the price. You think this was set up maybe by the central banking system to show volatility in the cryptocurrency market? Because the central bank, they continually, demonize cryptocurrency. Terrorists use it, criminals use it, and it's very volatile. You can't be in it. It's very scary. Do you think they actually maybe set this up?
Simple answer is heck to the yes.
Yeah, 1,000%. I'll tell you right now, for anybody that's listening, let me explain something to you guys. Okay, let me explain something to you guys. I work on a global level. I work on seeing money move and seeing what happens on a grand scale here. The number one currency used by drug dealers, by terrorist organizations is not cryptocurrencies, it's the US dollar. That is the number one thing. And number two, if you want to do money laundering, if you want to be a terrorist financier, blockchain is the worst thing you could utilize, It's just not a smart move. You want to be as clandestine as possible. You're going to be Barack Obama with 1.5 billion in cash and Swiss francs flying it over to Iran in duffel bags. Okay, and that's how you finance terrorism. That's how you finance clandestine stuff. All right. So this whole Mt. Gox thing. Look, here's the deal. Okay, central banks hate competition. If you're a central banker, okay, you don't like competition. If you're a central banker, you want any sort of monetary credibility. You don't want years ago, you don't want high gold and silver prices because it makes your currency look bad. Well, today you don't want cryptocurrency competing and looking better than what you're offering. Okay, you don't want that. It's competition because you don't control it. You can't control it because of blockchain. You could do certain things to manipulate it, like Mt. Gox, which was, from all intents and evidences, was some sort of an intelligence op from the get-go. All right, the whole Ponzi scheme, how that CEO of Mt. Gox skated scot-free, pretty much. Right now, you can manipulate it that way by dumping, bitcoins into the market. You can manipulate it with ETFs, which they're starting to do. But even with those manipulations, it's minor because you got to understand the beauty of the blockchain. The blockchain is alive. It's a very brilliant and intelligent system. Every manipulation that you try to hit it with, it gets stronger. It gets stronger. So what these guys are trying to do is they're not trying to stop. You can't stop this. You can't stop a genie that's left the bottle already. But what they are trying to do, Dave, is they're trying to slow it down. And I think Nick and Z, you guys have some insights into that you can fill out. Go ahead.
Well, from my end, I look at it in a couple of ways. The CEO from Mt. Gox, I think he did some minor time. I forget what his punishment was, but to me, it was a slap on the wrist for however many millions of dollars he got away with basically stealing or whatever it was he did. And so I think that if I were looking at the market just with my own money and I was looking for a good time to sell, I would wait until the bullishness ended. I would wait until there was less activity, aka less volume on the market. And I would look for a place to sell, which is usually right at a support where the price repeatedly hits. And if it just breaks kind of around that support, then I'm seeing signs that it's going down, I'll have a stop loss set up, or I'll simply sell at that time. And that's just making money. So the Mt. Gox trustee and whoever they're involved with, I'm sure it might be two birds of one stone, because that's exactly where they sold, is where I would sell. So yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that, I think that's very reasonable that they would conspire to do something like that.
But Cowboy, just to clarify, when they were selling into the market, they were doing the opposite of what a normal person would want to do, right? They were bringing the price down instead of selling at good times, they were selling at the worst time in the market. Isn't that right? From what we saw, the evidence.
It is in a way, but what I noticed each time was, it was going to hit a support when they sold at that 10,400 support. Yeah, that was kind of the opposite of what a lot of people would want to do, because they're expecting a bounce up. But the last time they did it, my spidey senses tickled in the back of my head. I told you guys this story. Well, I should probably get out of Bitcoin tonight. Something's going on, and the volume had gone down, and it ended up in basically it looked like a consolidation, but the volume was really low. And without getting too technical, that could go either way. So I think they hit it when it's weak, and then that's when you make it drop. But the thing is, they sold it for, I think, $1,000 per Bitcoin less than the market value. So obviously they're trying to break that support.
Yeah, that was the point that I was trying to make, is that if you're looking to unload a bunch of something to make money off of it, why would you cause the market to go down? And why would you actually? It seems like they were deliberately picking times to sell it into the market when it would actually bring the price down.
Trying to bring the support level.
Very odd. Very odd thing to do.
The other end of that, though, is if you do have that level of what Z likes to call the battering ram, and Z can speak on what happens when you hit supports, but when you have that level of influence on the market, if you know the price is going to go down, you're predicting the future, and therefore you can profit off of it. So if I had the ability to say, oh, well, the price is going to start at 10,400 and it's going to go down to, say, 6,000, and I can control that, then I'm going to control that, and I'm going to buy in at 6,000 just before I push it back up.
Z, you want to add something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as Cowboy was saying about the battering ram, as you can clearly see from his graph right here, you see 2 points almost looking like a W right here along those supports. So this is where Cowboy always talks about the supports lines. And as you can see, each time it hit those points of that W, those V points, it bounced up. That support can only take so many hits before it no longer becomes a strong support and it floods through. What we've realized is that, with the whole Mt. Gox situation, that they wait a lot of times till it gets to these supports, till it's been weakened up a little bit, and then they dump even more. And what that causes it to do is that it causes a flood down, a trigger, a sell order trigger, I guess you would say, down to the next support. And it's really interesting to see that the amount of excuses and the amount of FUD that's been happening throughout the whole crypto space with the ban of Facebook ads and Twitter ads and now Instagram is looking also to ban ads on cryptocurrencies. There's only so many more excuses, only so much more FUD that can be spread around before I believe a true reversal will happen, and you will see another rise up in cryptocurrencies. It's becoming sort of played out, I think.
Oh yeah, and to speak a little bit to that, in fact, you guys did a show back in, I think it was December, when they first started bank cards. They were not allowing you to use, say, Bank of America cards to buy cryptocurrencies. And what that says to me is that it's a very coordinated effort. Of course, the banks are probably the biggest culprit, but they want to suppress the normal people's ability to keep the price going up. Whenever you want to manipulate a market, you want to manipulate it in the direction that it's about to go, right? So if you're on a heavy rise, trying to push it down is extremely expensive. But if you just had a very large run and you're right at the top and the algorithms are all in play, then you can go ahead and push down on it with very little effort, and it goes really far. So if you have less resistance, or I should say support on the way down by people not being able to buy in, say limiting their B of A, getting rid of advertisements to raise awareness, things like that. This is all big coordination, and that plays into that.
So this reminds me of the 1970s, because right now, when you hear this from the banks, you hear it from Facebook, where they're not allowing you to purchase ads selling any type of cryptocurrency. It reminds me of the 1970s when they were trying to protect the American people from gold speculators. And the central banks, they even came out and said it, we want to protect the people from volatility. I didn't realize that it was the central bank's job to protect us from volatility, from speculators, because where are they with gambling? How come they're not protecting us with gambling? What they're saying makes no sense. And to me, the only thing that this whole thing tells me is that they're really protecting themselves.
Oh, 1,000%. You know, when you got the central bankers, when you got the worst of the worst, when you have the absolute sycophant, murderous cabal of clowns, and you got these clowns saying, we want to protect it. This is like the foxes who have a history of raiding chicken coops and eating all the chickens, saying, hey, you know what? We want to guard the chicken coop, and we're going to protect these chickens. No one's going to buy it. Protect us from volatility. Protect us from theft. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight here. The same federal bank, the Federal Reserve Bank, the same central bankers who've caused the 1929 Great Depression, the market crashes, the same central banks who flood the markets with cheap credit, the same central banks who through various means such as TARP, such as quantitative easing and stimulus and this and that and every sort of financial mechanism, Dave, the same central bankers who do everything in their power to create capital destruction, capital malformation, distortions in the marketplace, the same central bankers who gave us derivatives, subprime, credit default swaps, CDOs and CDSs, the same central bankers who were caught with their hands in the cookie jar in the LIBOR scandal that affected count it, Dave, 800 trillion with a T in loans and funds globally, the same central bankers who created 1.5 quadrillion worth of debt on the planet, the same ones who make it impossible for you to function and live on this earth. These same guys want to protect us? Dave, you hit the nail on the head. They want to protect themselves. You see, the collapse is coming. The Western banking system is about to end. The world is shifting to the east. The world is shifting to the One Belt, One Road. The West has nothing. So what the banks are doing, and we've seen this with the announcement of Basel III, okay? What the banks are doing, they said, hey, they've made a promise to lock arms, and they're going to look out for themselves. The J.P. Morgans, the Goldman Sachs, the Bank of Americas, the Deutsche Banks, the Lloyds of Londons, the Barclays, the Credit Suisses, the UBSs. They're all going to lock arms, Dave, and they're all going to protect themselves and say kumbaya, and they're going to let you hold the bag. Why? Because they got all the benefits. They got all the benefits of nationalization. They privatized all the profits and they nationalized all the risk. They're going to let you, the American taxpayer, go down with the ship. That's what they're going to do. And these guys want to trust us. Why? Because they're afraid. You see, cryptocurrencies has done something that not even gold and silver was not able to do. And that is, it has returned labor back into the hands of the common man. It has returned labor back into the hands of the common man. And that is something that they're terrified of. You've been given a wealth creation tool, and they are terrified. They are scared that you would somehow figure it out on how to operate it. Nick and Zig, go ahead. We're Frank.
Well, before you go, I have two questions here, and then you can answer. One, you said they were afraid if people, and I'm saying that the major population decides to go into cryptocurrency, what would happen to the central banks? That's question number one. What would happen to the banking system? Number two, right now, since they're trying to control it and they're, having the paper market and trying to manipulate it, how do we beat them at their game right now?
Well, those are two great questions. Number one, how, if they're terrified of this whole entire thing of what they're doing with, beating down the paper markets and this, that, and the other and manipulating it, how do we beat these guys? How do we beat them? Or what would happen to them if we all switch? What would happen to them is this. If we get out of their system, you see, folks, we've talked about it forever. And, for guys like me, old school, I would always talk about gold and silver as being the only exploits the average American has. Gold and silver, gold and silver, gold and silver. But what occurs is not many people have gold and silver. It's not accessible, or they don't know how to properly use it. Along comes cryptocurrencies. It changes the game. So you beat these guys by not participating in their system. So you see, it's like a parasitic relationship that they have with you. They need you in order for them to survive. But once you say, you know what, I'm not going to partake of your system. I'm not going to give any more of my hard-earned labor into your system. All of a sudden, they die. And when they die, they create a vacuum. And into that vacuum, you're going to have innovative people with innovative technologies utilizing the blockchain that will gladly and rapidly and very quickly fill up any sort of vacuum or void that they leave behind, number one. Number two, we beat them because, again, remember, all the manipulation they could do is a little bit. And they primarily manipulate Bitcoin because Bitcoin, unfortunately, the way it is, if Bitcoin goes down, the altcoin markets go down. If Bitcoin goes up, the altcoin markets go up. Everybody's pegged on. Everybody has a psychological connection on Bitcoin. But we start utilizing other coins and other technologies that are out there that Z and Nick know about. We start floating away from their mechanisms of control. But you got to understand, whatever manipulations they have is limited. It's not the far-reaching tools that they already have in the financial markets. They don't have a CDS on Bitcoin. They don't have IR swaps on cryptocurrencies. They don't have quantitative easing. They don't have any sort of inflation or contraction of the altcoin supply. They don't have 10,000 ant mining computers sitting in the Federal Reserve right now that are mining cryptocurrency. They don't have any of that. So whatever they do, they could do it from the limited supply they have, i.e. Mt. Gox, i.e. ETFs. And that works until the day somebody says, hey, you know what? Here's a better coin than Bitcoin that does it 10 times better and 10 times cheaper. Dave, that's the whole thing. You see, we can't let these momentary scare tactics scare us away from probably the last or one of the few exploits we have, Dave. That's the thing.
I was going to say, if there's sort of on a more personal level dealing with that. You have sort of two different people. You have someone who is still, and maybe this market crash has scared them even more, but someone who's hesitant to get into cryptos. They hear, they're afraid if they buy it, they're going to lose it all. There's no physical in their hand, and that makes them very uncomfortable. That's one of the things that we've been trying to address with our crypto school, is just helping people get comfortable learning how to store them safely and things like that. And we had to do that out of necessity, just because of the nature of a business that V and I run. A lot of the people we were dealing with on a day-to-day basis were new to cryptos, and we were spending so much time answering questions. I said, V, we got to start a school, because I can't become my full-time job at telling people how to start a Coinbase account. We have to think. So there's that aspect. There are ways to get informed so that you can safely learn how to navigate your way around using and holding cryptocurrencies, and that's something that we help people with. But then there's that other person, which we also encounter a lot, who has invested, and maybe they invested before December. They didn't get caught in the trap of the high prices, but somebody who has actually seen a lot of profit from investing in cryptos. How do you, for them, what we're seeing is many of them got slaughtered in January when the market came back down. And so with our other side of what we do in our Watch Us Trade Room, which Nick and Cowboy and Z run, is so much of it is portfolio management, learning how to make sure that it just doesn't get slaughtered in a downturn. And that's one of the things I've learned from these guys that has been invaluable to me. I'm one of those people. I'm not a crypto trading expert. I know a lot about cryptos, but I'm not a trader. And since we started working with them in the middle of this bear market, we've only ever been working with them in the bear market. And so they've impressed us in that on a daily basis, watching the markets and learning methods to retain the value of that portfolio and protect it even in a bear market. And more than that, not only protect it, but still find opportunities in the crypto market, which is still a very exciting marketplace to be in. Yeah, it's been a difficult month or two, very difficult, but there's still tremendous opportunity in it for somebody who is excited about it, someone who's learning about it, someone who is looking to profit from it. Even in difficult days like this, there's still some incredible opportunities. And even, it's funny, one of the things just watching these guys, when I would see Litecoin or Bitcoin or something like that, on a day like today when they're down, that would just, bring me down. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to check the charts for another couple of days. I'm just going to ignore it and go about my business. Now, I don't want to say I root for them to go down. That would be an exaggeration, but I see it as an opportunity to back out and get back in at a better time. So, you don't have to be helpless in the crypto market. You can get informed. You can learn about how to acquire them and hold them safely. But then you can also learn how to manage your portfolio with a limited amount of time put in every day. You don't have to sit in front of your computer all day trying to figure out endless charts. When you're with the right people, getting the right education and the right information, you can make decisions to protect yourself in the crypto market, even with all of the manipulation we've been talking about. We don't want to scare people away from it. See, the thing is, when we talk about manipulation in the market, that's something that our guys have their eye on. They see it coming. They're watching it happening. They're seeing the indicators pop off. They're seeing the patterns form. And so instead of just saying, oh my goodness, the crypto market is manipulated. Well, every market is manipulated to some extent, right? Some more than others. But instead of just saying, I'm going to stay away from this incredible innovation that is going to define the 21st century because it's manipulated, be around the right people who can actually see with a high degree of competence what's happening and learn methods to protect yourself. And that's what we're all about at the Crypto School.
So you're saying the days of just holding, or what do they call it, hodling?
Hodling.
Hodling. Mm-hmm.
Hodling, yeah.
I mean, are those days over? That's, you just can't just, buy Bitcoin or get Litecoin and just hold it and watch it and go, wow, look how much money I'm making. Those days are over.
Yeah, Dave, the hodling is it's just a strategy. It's just a strategy, but it shouldn't be your only strategy. See, a lot of people went into this because, I'm going to get into such and such coin and that market coin and this coin and that coin. I'm going to get into this ICO and I'm going to hodl it because it's going to go up to $10 billion and I'm going to be a bajillionaire. It's not how it works. You see, in this bloodbath of a market right now, Z and Cowboy have been killing it. They've returned over 600% profits in a bloodbath because this market is not a hodling market. It's a trader's market. Traders seek opportunity. Traders seek volatility. Traders seek, and what's the old Chinese proverb here? Crisis and opportunity is the same word. It's the same word. It's the same definition. Crisis is opportunity. So hodling is a strategy. But if it's your only strategy, I'll tell you what my old boss used to tell me. He's my mentor. He said you can crap in one hand and you could hope in the other and see which piles up faster. Okay? Don't hodl. You want to hodl something, go hodl gold because gold will never go to zero. Your alt or your cryptocurrency that you got into because you heard Billy Bob and Jimmy John over at some YouTube channel somewhere or on a podcast, or he's your next door neighbor told you, hey, this is inside information. This altcoin is going to revolutionize the world, and you bought it because you're thinking you're going to be a bajillionaire. Well, that coin could go to zero.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That can go to zero, just like a stock could go to zero. And it's happened before in stocks. Went to zero. Okay? Yeah. So, that's what people need to be aware of. Z, Nick, go ahead. I know you guys got a few things to add to this. Go ahead.
Well, Z is actually amazing at like fundamental analysis. That's kind of his specialty. So, I was kind of hoping to hear from Z's point of view on, buying these coins and what happens, over a period of time from the time they come out until the time that there actually is technology and what happens to the price.
Yeah. So, as V stated, hodling is a strategy. Everybody, it's. I'm not going to say it's a terrible strategy, but for me, I don't personally adopt hodling throughout like 100%. What I like to do is I like to do a mixture between trading and hodling to accumulate those bags, right? Just like we did with Litecoin in our room and so forth. You just build upon it a coin that you really have, a really good feeling for. So in terms of the market right now, when the market is in a downturn, a lot of times the best way to go about it is not to hodl. Is it like V said, it's all about volatility. It's all about catching those waves down and up. And that's exactly what we try to focus on here. And this allows you to actually create wealth as the market is turning down. So a lot of go ahead.
I was going to point out on the Bitcoin chart that we're looking at where Z and I actually did what he just said. Do we want to see that right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So basically what we're looking at here, this is on the 6-hour chart. So for those of us who are new to charting, every single one of these bars is 6 hours worth of price action, price movement. And so this formation is an upward wedge. And there's a very high probability that upward wedges fall. They fall out of it. There's, without getting too deep into the tech, that's just usually what happens. So when I saw the price heading in this direction, and I saw a few indicators, I saw up here what's called the spinning top. It's a special kind of candle, indicates uncertainty in market direction. I went ahead and set a stop loss a little bit more in a safe area. I set a stop loss around like 73, something like that. So at $7,300, my portfolio was automatically set up to get out of Bitcoin and into fiat. And then now I'm just waiting for it to go down. And there are ways of actually measuring that downturn. And the way I've got it mapped out is, first of all, there are supports, there are resistances. We have a support right here where it's bounced off of twice. But as Z said before, how many times is it going to bounce off? We're looking at a much wider movement, because if you actually, I have it on the next chart, I'll point out the wider movement, but my indication is that we're going to see on the way down, I think 5,800 or 6,000 is a really important number. I think it's possibly going to break through right here. There might be some things that happen around here. You might have some sideways movement, but I think eventually it's going to come down here. And the reason I think that is in the wider picture, you have basically, it can be looked at a few different ways, but you have a big bear flag. And so, that's what this formation looks like. Now, the things could happen. That formation could change. It's all based on up to date data. And the data as of now on this 1 hour chart shows a bear flag. And if you do measurements and you do some math, around 58, high 5800s is your bottom for that. And just to kind of show everybody something else, we had the big bottom down in February. And that big bottom happened to be, you guessed it, 5,800. It's right there. I'm going to go ahead and move this chart a little bit, but you can see the wick of this happen right here. And this is the day that the SEC made their announcement that, okay, we're okay with cryptos and everything. So in the charting game, what we do like to see are double bottoms. And that's what this, clean up some mess here so we can see it better. But that's what this very might be right here. Bottom here, bottom there. And then you have a good chance of a rise after that. Doesn't mean it's going to happen that way, but that is what it looks like. And just in the shorter term, this is another bear flag, but you're looking at the 15-minute chart. These things are they're relatively reliable. They don't always play out, but the probability is good that when the volume drops off down here, when you start to see a trail off in volume, especially in buying volume, when the bulls get tired, the bears win. That's going to take us down to our next support, which is, I believe, 6,400 or so. Mm-hmm. So that's actually a chart read on Bitcoin through 3 different time frames.
Yeah, and he's doing this on what's today, April 6th? Just to be clear.
Yes.
I have a little testimony to this strategy because I'm a recovering hodler. I still have like Z was saying, I have a certain number of things that I hodl, but learning this strategy from what Nick from Cowboy and Z have posted in our chat room, something really cool happened. I had, I'll give you the exact number. I had a 150 Litecoin on Binance, which is an exchange that we use often for crypto trading. And just watching and learning what these guys were doing when they saw the price action, not spending $1, I managed to turn 150 Litecoin into 210 Litecoin in a week. So that's an example of what can be done in a bear market. That was when bad things were happening. That's what I was able to do, just occasionally checking into the chat room that we run. And it's, Does that happen for everybody? No, but I wasn't spending 9 hours a day checking it out either. I was just checking in, seeing what the updates were. These guys are ferocious in their content update. They live and breathe this stuff. We joke that when Z goes to bed, Nick wakes up, and they're both in California, and sometimes it's really close. You'll see Z sign off and Cowboys sign on like within an hour after first thing.
At like 3 and 4 in the morning. It's crazy.
We're worried about them actually. We needed to do an intervention. But no, that's a true story. This was in a span of, I'd say, a week or two. I was just dipping my toe, and I had literally, I think it was 150, 151 Litecoin, got turned into 210 Litecoin in a brutal week, which was crushing the Litecoin price. And so not only did I add to that Litecoin bag, but I maintained the dollar value that I had, because when the market was going up, I was watching it and get excited like everybody else. But when the news in the room came and said, okay, I think we're getting ready to dump out and we may go to this number or that number, I would back out of it into something else and then come back when it would hit those lower numbers. In fact, a couple times it happened while I was sleeping, because from our educational content, I learned how to set those things off automatically. So I didn't have to sit there on my mouse all day. I could literally go to bed, not worry about it, wake up in the morning and find that what we had set in place worked, and that it was greatly to my benefit. So there really are ways to protect your portfolio and even grow your portfolio, even on the worst weeks. And that's not all that I've learned from these guys. These guys are always finding opportunities in the market. And this was something that I wanted to bring up, add to our discussion about hodling. Like I said, I still have things that I hodl, but we have this incredible cryptocurrency opportunity in the market. And I think in the early days, I was one of these people who sort of very early in the game lucked out on an ICO and turned a little bit of money into a lot of money. And then I was hooked. It was like, oh my goodness, I picked the right thing. I listened to a YouTuber or whatever, and I got in, and it was very exciting. And that happens. And there are products that we believe in that someone may want to invest in. Everybody has that happen. But what I'm starting to learn and starting to realize is the whole cryptocurrency market is bringing a new business model to the world. And as I was saying before, it's an adoption of technology cycle that we're participating in here. And as that ramps up, instead of hoping and praying and trying to read the tea leaves and guess and pick a couple of winners to get rich off of, why not instead gain from moves all around the crypto market, from all different kinds of products that are being released, from all different tokens. Every token has its day when it's going to rise. So why not grab gains from all of them instead of trying to pick 5 or 6 or 20 different ICOs or new tokens that are being released, instead of hoping that you pick a winner or two, which again is I do that to some extent. But more and more, I want to benefit from the gains of the whole market as they're happening in real time, instead of having the opportunity cost of having my money sidelined into some ICO where I don't really know anything about the people. You wake up in the morning and find out that some law changed or some horrible thing happened. This happened to me last week with one of the things that I was holding on the side. They made an announcement that killed their price. They decided they were changing some policy, and so there went that investment, at least for the short term. So more and more I'm becoming convinced I want to benefit from the moves of the whole market, not hope and pray that a couple of my favorite picks, which again, we love favorite picks. Z is great at fundamental analysis and looking at up and coming coins that we want to keep our eyes on. But why not benefit from the moves of all of them instead of pouring your whole portfolio into a handful of them and hoping and praying that they rise? Because we believe in crypto in general. We're going to see a rise in crypto.
Are you guys worried about regulations?
Well, I think my friend Roger Ver said it best. Okay, I love Raj. Roger's a great guy. We work together. He's referred a bunch of projects to me on the side. But anyway, my buddy Roger, he's known as the Bitcoin Jesus. He's one of the early investors in Bitcoin when Bitcoin's only a few pennies. And Roger's also the owner of Bitcoin.com. He's also the inventor, one of the founders of Bitcoin Cash. Roger said it best to me. He says, V, when you get around core developers, when you get around people, when you get out of Joe and Jane Public, and you get around core developers, you get around people who are actually on the front lines developing cryptocurrencies, he said this. He says, we don't care what a bunch of bureaucrats in a far-off land and what laws they make. I want you to think about that in a sense. Because if you understand that statement, you understand the radical political geostrategic shift that has occurred within the last several years. Folks, if you understand that statement encapsulates the very word decentralized. It encapsulates the very technology called blockchain. I tell people all the time, Dave, I say, hey, you want to learn up on blockchain? There's a great book called Blockchain Revolution. There's a great book called The Internet of Things. Go get it, read up on it. Because oftentimes people will make the most insane comments, like, they're going to shut down the blockchain. They're going to hack it. You can't hack a blockchain. They're gonna shut it down. You can't shut it down. They're going to cut off the internet. You can't. You really can't. And now the internet's being decentralized. You see, the worst nightmare to these tyrants is happening now. And these laws and regulations, okay, they're going to pass a law. They're going to pass a regulation. V, you have 300,000 Bitcoins. We saw that you put it on Coinbase. Where is it? I moved it into a wallet. Okay, fantastic. Give us our wallet thing. What would you do with it? I have no idea. I lost my wallet. I don't have access to it. Real talk. So we had an expert on my show one time. Frank and we interviewed him. This is a gentleman who has over a quarter century of dealing with the the Internal Revenue Service. I said international because they are a bunch of international criminals. But anyway, the Internal Revenue Service. Quarter century experience dealing with them. Knows their laws in and out. There's not a single regulatory teeth. You see, Germany, as an example, folks, tried to regulate cryptos. You know what happened? Didn't work. They said, yeah, we're not. You see, they're hoping that you're so terrified of the men in black, that you're so scared about the men with guns and the government, that out of fear you willfully report on yourself. That's the regulation right there. That is the regulation. Oh, we're gonna regulate any sort of ICO that comes in the United States. And we're gonna make it okay, fine. You know how many ICOs are around the world right now, and those creative individuals have workaround? There's a workaround for everything, folks. You just gotta learn it. You just have to learn it. You see, these regulations at the end of the day, like, look at Russia. We're going to control this. We're going to tax this. And then the Russians realize, oh, yeah, we can't stop this. We can't collect a single penny on this stuff. It's damn near impossible. The Japanese have learned this. The Chinese have learned this. And they are much more far ahead in blockchain and crypto adoption than anybody else. I have a buddy of mine who is one of the core developers of Bitcoin. Yes, I said that. I have a friend who was a friend of a very good friend of mine who was originally started out as a client of mine. He's one of the core developers of Bitcoin. In fact, it was his colleague that created the world-famous Trezor wallet. And he said this. He said, you know what? If I want any sort of bleeding-edge technology being done in blockchain and in innovation, I go overseas. Nobody bothers me. I'm in the Bahamas. I'm in Panama. I'm in Hong Kong. I'm in China. I'm in Japan. I'm in South Korea. I have zero issues. And you know what he also says, Dave? He says, we don't care what kind of regulations are passed. It doesn't stop us. And that's the whole entire thing. You see, the only regulation here is the fear. The only regulation here is the fear that you're going to freak out and spill the beans on your private life and what you do with your money, and you tell it to the men in suits.
I guess that's why they put out that article where it says, I just discovered I owe the IRS $50,000 and I don't have it because I traded cryptos.
It's a BS article. And Dave, I took that article apart piece by piece by piece by piece. This morning show on Rogue Money. Go to the Rogue Money morning show. I did it with CJ this morning, April the 6th. And I dismantled that fake, fictitious, and false article. from every point. You see, that's the thing people need to realize. It's the fear. They don't have any control. Wait, you know how I know that? You can't stop the blockchain technology. You can't shut it off. They're gonna shut off the. No, you can't. Unless there's a coronal mass ejection from the sun that wipes out pretty much all life on Earth and all electronics, I'm not worried about it, Dave. I'm really not. Z or Nick, you guys want to add to that?
I'd say, in my opinion, the government and everything they do is reactive. We've had some other people say that too. So we're talking about exploits. We have gold and silver, which my family is heavily involved in. And we have, now we have the cryptos. There are a few other exploits. The thing about the exploits is they evolve. So we can find a way to make that work. And then the government, they'll come after it in some way. And then there's a new method to where we can find a way to evolve around that. So the evolution is now multiplied exponentially. And what I mean by that is the cryptocurrency market is designed to evolve geometrically. So not only are we evolving as people and our ability to find ways in the current system to not be exploited by the government financially and things like that, but the actual blockchain itself and all of the different chains out there, all the different products that are being made, that is the market providing the answer. That is simply the market providing our way to get around whatever the government's doing. And then the government is going to try to do something, to counteract that, but they're reactive. And we evolve now because crypto so quickly and the only way for the government to really be able to benefit in this situation is to embrace cryptos eventually, right? Because unless there's some kind of crazy technology that, in 100 years with quantum computers, until something like that happens, you can't beat the cryptos. You can push them down, you can squeeze people out, but they're always going to be around because, especially with Bitcoin, is a group of people. A lot of them are in the third world. They use Bitcoin to preserve wealth, like down in Venezuela. They get paid a certain amount of money, and then a lot of these people are moving it into Bitcoin. So that they can actually preserve that wealth, because next week, due to their inflationary system, due to their socialist economic policy, the same, whatever their currency is, I'm ashamed that I don't know what it is right now. I think it's a bolivar.
Bolivar!
The bolivar. The same amount of 100 bolivar this week is worth 80 next week. So there are so many people using Bitcoin already. And they may be able to push out speculators with their manipulations, but ultimately Bitcoin, I think, is going to continue to be used. So that's what I wanted to add to it, is this multiplier effect of exponential evolution that the market has as a design. And it's even evolved to evolve faster. It's really actually quite amazing. We're living in some very interesting times technologically. Z?
No, I completely agree. I've just been listening to you guys. You guys are touching on some subjects that I don't even know about in terms of the whole economic world, which is very interesting. I think that cryptos are going to continue to grow. The way I approach cryptocurrencies and the way I tell all of my friends and family about cryptocurrencies when I do speak about it is that I like to follow where big money goes. That's essentially how I like to approach, I guess, finances or business or anything that is looking to generate me wealth. And I'm starting to see a lot of viewership from guys like Google, from guys like IBM, Amazon, and so forth. They're talking about utilizing the blockchain technology. And one of the really interesting parts that I took from John McAfee's interview. I'm hit or miss with that guy, but one of the cool things I did take from his interview is that cryptocurrencies and blockchain go hand in hand. You cannot have a blockchain technology without a cryptocurrency. It just doesn't really work. And so when I see big guys like IBM, Google, Amazon starting to look at cryptocurrencies, it just makes me think, and it kind of ensures me a little bit that cryptocurrencies aren't going anywhere, that this is a market that's going to thrive, and we're just starting with it now. And, the opportunity is now before it really goes mainstream.
Yeah, one quick way to identify if someone doesn't know what they're talking about, especially on the mainstream media, is if they say, "I really like blockchain, but not Bitcoin." As soon as someone says that, you know you're dealing with someone who has no clue what they're talking about. So you can basically disregard what they say. You'll hear a lot of that in the mainstream media. But circling back a little bit, we were talking about cryptos and taxes, and man, that's the last thing I would want to give advice on. But V and I did have a great interview with man we call X, and our working theory was that at the time there was some new quote unquote crypto tax law released, and which was actually, if you really looked at it, it was very hard to determine that. And the echoes all over YouTube and all around the internet, people were saying all kinds of things that we just found unworkable, things that just aren't even possible, that don't really make sense. You know, people were saying things like if you traded your Bitcoin for an Ethereum, you were going to have to pay taxes on that. And to which we were just saying, with what? Right? Because there was no dollar cash out involved in that trade. So people were going to the point where they came up with this idea that if you did any trading at all from one crypto to another, that it was a taxable event. And there are quote unquote tax experts who are saying that all over the place, and some of them well-meaning people, and some of them just live in such fear that I was saying it, and it may sound insulting, but I'm not going to treat the IRS like my girlfriend. In that, or my wife. I've been married 20 years, so don't have a girlfriend. Putting that, I do not. I only have a wife. But I'm not gonna try to read the IRS's mind, right? And we had all kinds of people saying the IRS might think this, and it's like, really, that's how we're approaching this? What we saw was no statutes come out of them. We saw some scary language that was going to make people run to their tax preparer and confess all kinds of things that they had purchased that they hadn't yet cashed out of.
I'm sorry for buying
exactly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, I get this call, you know, as part of our other business that we have outside of the crypto school. We help people with assets and things like that.
We do asset protection, folks. This is what we do. So we're kind of good at what we're talking about here.
Yeah, we don't do people's taxes, but I get a lot of questions. Just yesterday I spent an hour with a guy saying, what do I do? Because, you know, I have this stuff on this account, and he just kept naming all these things that weren't taxable events that he was felt compelled to go and confess to them. And it's like, you didn't do anything wrong. You're just holding cryptos. You know, you would have to literally sell them to pay taxes on them. That should tell you
on an exchange that reports.
Yeah.
Let me reiterate. You have to sell it on an actual exchange that reports back to Uncle Sammy Boy
into USD.
That creates a taxable event.
Yeah, there were all of these quote unquote experts saying every trade was a taxable event, and so we were hearing echoed throughout the internet. Some very smart people, well-meaning but very, in our opinion, wrong. Okay, in my personal opinion, saying that every little trade you made on Shapeshift or Binance or anything was in and of itself a taxable event, and that got a lot of people scared away from trading at all. And it's like there's no statutes out of the IRS that demonstrates how anyone would ever report anything like that. You would just be attaching pages to your to your taxes, just confessing all kinds of things that nobody asked you.
So going back to John McAfee, there was one time where he said that Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million.
He still says it. He reiterated the fact a few days ago that he goes, guys, just so you know, I'm not going to say exactly what he says because there's a lot of foul language in it, but he essentially states that his 1 million prophecy is still there, and that is on the lower spectrum. That is like the minimum. He thinks that is the minimum that essentially it's going to rise to.
I mean, is it really possible that Bitcoin can get to 1 million?
Possibly. I think one of the future things that are being trotted around right now is gold, and gold is going to be used as a world or global trade settlement. That's what the launch of the Petro Yuan, which a handful of guys like myself have been screaming about since Jump Street. It's now here. So gold is going to be used as a global trade settlement. Why? Because most people don't have any gold. Like, how many people owns physical gold, except for the few of us that listen to programs like this, Dave, or partake in programs like this, Dave. I mean, really nobody. But so when this whole entire financial global economic reset, when it happens, and it's going to happen, and when it does, you're going to need something for the population. You're going to need something for the people. cryptocurrencies is going to be that. And one of the things that some of these architects and some of these think tanks are proposing is using Bitcoin as an anchor, almost like as how gold will be for a global fiat system, to make Bitcoin some sort of an anchor or a reserve for much of the cryptocurrencies that are out there. I mean, that's just some of the things that's being proposed. But one thing is for certain, cryptos are here to stay.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's really ironic because I just saw an ad on Facebook. It was promoted by IBM, and it talked about IBM utilizing the blockchain technology. So I guess Facebook is essentially separating the two between blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, which doesn't really make very much sense to me, because the technology in which IBM is going to be using, which is the RFID/IO technology, very similar to Venn, is essentially has to be tokenized. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work out, but I'm like I said, I'm starting to see these big guys talking about utilizing blockchain, utilizing cryptocurrencies. You hear that about Amazon, you hear that about Alibaba, you hear about all these guys getting really interested in the whole sector. I think Mark Cuban now has created about 4 or 5 cryptocurrencies now under his company, Cuban Investments. So it's, that's what I like to do. I like to chase where the money goes, and that's how I typically like to do my investments.
Yeah, and Bitcoin going to 1 million. I mean, if you just look at the math, there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin at most, and really that number's overblown because of what's lost and what's out there.
It's roughly 17 million.
Yeah, so try to fit just a tiny percentage of the global economy into the crypto markets, with Bitcoin being the big dog. And the math is there for very, very, very expensive Bitcoin someday. And someday is getting closer every day. So yeah, I think that the days, someone comes across this video a few years from now and they see Cowboy's screen with Bitcoin at 6,599. They're just going to go, holy cow. I was looking at one of my own screencasts where I was teaching somebody how to do something in one of our educational videos. And I had that same experience. The price was just like, I was like, oh, wow, those were the days, So yeah, I'll say this. Is it going to go to 1 million? I don't know. Go to 1 billion, but it's certainly not going to stay at 6,500.
Now, the other question I wanted to ask you, I mean, we're talking about cryptocurrency, and it does have the word currency in it, and we're seeing that, Facebook and Amazon and many other people are all looking at this. Countries, states are even saying that, hey, you can pay your taxes with cryptocurrency. You think eventually what's going to happen here is that employers are going to start paying people in cryptocurrency? Because really, if you really think about it, whatever cryptocurrency you take and it's not volatile anymore and it's kind of stable at some point, they can actually just deposit it right into your wallet, into an offline wallet. You don't need to go to a bank. It's instantaneous. And then you can take that and maybe use that cryptocurrency and you can use it to purchase goods on Amazon or any other store. Do you see this actually headed our way?
Well, absolutely. Z and I learned. It's here. Well, okay.
There's already a company that does that's like ADP for your paychecks, and you can have that company do your paycheck, and you can have your employer, or if you're an employer, you can pay your employees and have a portion of their paycheck going into Bitcoin. It's already there.
Well, see, there's that, and then there's also Venn. And Z, you speak better on Venn than I do, but I think Venn is going to be where that might occur in a big way.
Yeah, so there's a few coins out there that are looking to make their way into becoming the front runners. There was actually recently I read up on a coin called STK that is going to be the first mobile platform, sort of like Apple Pay and Google Pay for the phone, but for cryptos. And the director for mobile payments for TD Bank recently left TD Bank. He's the CEO of this company. So, you've got a lot of big players playing into this, and we'll go into Venn in detail with the FA. If you guys want me to start now or whatnot, I can definitely go into that.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So just some really cool information, guys. Remember, this is not financial advice. This is just, just all for entertainment. But so there's a coin called VEN. It's now recently has been rebranded to VET. The official name is VeChain. VEN is a very special coin. It originally started as a RFID technology coin that was just essentially supply chain. It was essentially going to put supply chains on the blockchain. So you can track all parts of the manufacturing of cars. So its first focus was cars. And VEN is a European company that had some huge investments from Singapore. And that's how it first began. VEN recently completely blew out. It made a partnership. It's like one of the first official cryptocurrencies that has a legitimate partnership with a country. And the country it has a partnership with is China, which is a very, very big thing.
I've heard of China.
You heard of China, right? Not many people know about it because everybody always assumes that China banned Bitcoin and China banned cryptocurrencies. No, China actually just wants to essentially put the regulations on it so that, when it grows, they can actually control it. And, China obviously is not a dumb country. So China has a partnership with VEN, and they're looking to build an entire city on VEN. The city is going to be out west, in mainland China, like mainland China, and this entire city is going to be what they call a smart city. The entire city is going to be based on VEN's blockchain. Everything from the construction of the city to when the city's up and running, its policies, its payroll. If you want to go into a coffee shop, you can pay with VEN. Every single thing is going to be based on VEN's blockchain. Just to let people know, there's a whole article written by it. This is legitimate, and there's just a lot of opportunity behind it. And one of the key factors that kind of propelled VEN and maybe had a stake in that relationship with China was a guy named Jim Breyer. For those of you who don't know, Jim Breyer owns the Breyer Foundation. It's one of the largest hedge funds out there in traditional stocks. And Jim Breyer was the first institutional investor into Facebook. And Jim Breyer just recently, before this announcement with the partnership with China, Jim Breyer became an advisor of VEN. And there actually is a photo of Jim Breyer standing next to the president of China, as well as guys like Tim Cook and Jack Ma and all these big figureheads. And Zuckerberg. Yep, and all these big figureheads in the same room, taking a photo. And this was all done within a week when VEN had that partnership with China. So there's a lot of very big names coming in here, and it's just exciting times. And like I said, guys, I try to follow where big money plays, and big money is not shying away from cryptocurrencies, definitely not shying away from the blockchain. And this is definitely, in my opinion, this is definitely manipulation. They're looking to try to get it now, try to get it when it's cheap, and then I think it's going to explode up.
Actually, I pulled up VEN on the chart because we talk about VEN so much. And one of the things that I like to see with a cryptocurrency is when the crypto is brand new, what happens is you have like some big announcements, maybe some deals are made, perhaps like what Z just talked about, and the price just skyrockets. Eventually, people realize, oh, the technology is not going to exist for another 8 months or 10 months. And then they are starting to experience what we call opportunity cost, or what is called opportunity cost, where they can move their money somewhere else where it grows while price is discovered on this new coin. So we're starting to experience a bit of price discovery, and we follow VEN very closely. We believe VEN is going to be huge for all the reasons that Z just mentioned. If you think about it, this city is in Western China, and Western China is going to be part of the major, part of the One Belt, One Road. A lot of these cities are being built along the One Belt, One Road, these quote unquote empty cities, because they're going to fill them. They're going to fill them with people to operate the logistics of the new trade routes. So, the interesting thing is they're going to put this city that sounds to me like it's on that path. So, China, if you ask me, China's bought in. And they're bought in so much so that we don't even have what's called the main net out until I think July 30th or June 30th. And that's a big step for any cryptocurrency of that kind when you have something that's a platform such as that. Ethereum, ICX, these are all mainnet types, infrastructure coins. And then's one of those. We have this bounce right here where we had this massive run up. It barely touched this support zone, and it shot up like a rocket the other night. So when you see that type of price action in a currency that has nothing going on for a few months, that is really an indication of strength. And for anybody who's following it closely, I'll very briefly show it on a different time frame. This is a bigger time frame. You're looking at some nice bullishness all around on the 4-hour chart. So this is a zone it could hit right here, and you might see a shoot up. But as I put here, this very large demand zone, it's a pretty big swath, but this barely touched it, and it was like dynamite. It came right up off of that. So we're experiencing some retracement here, and we could bounce off of here. But if we ever hit this demand zone down here, for those of us who are following this kind of thing, my Bitcoin is going to be ready to buy right at that point. And if it dips below this support zone, I'm going to have a stop loss just below that to actually buy back in around that demand zone. And I may not even do that. Ven is so strong, I may just stick in it for the time being. So that's Ven. What about Yuan? Yuan is huge. Can you talk about Yuan?
Yes. So Yuan Chain is my newest favorite coin. The Yuan Chain is an incredible coin. Its ICO was in October, and Yuan Chain was one of the first ICOs to sort of implement the lockup period, where they essentially locked it up that no one could receive their Yuan Chain coins until a certain point. I think they were waiting for not only progress in their coin, but also in their they kind of wanted the market to be a little bit more stable. At that time, Bitcoin was completely going downwards, so they didn't really want to release it when Bitcoin was 12,000, 13,000, trailing heavy downwards. So Yuan Chain recently launched out. Yuan Chain's platform is, just as Cowboy said, it's a building infrastructure platform. It's blockchain 3.0. So just for those of you who don't know, Ethereum Classic was blockchain 1.0. Ethereum is blockchain 2.0, and now blockchain 3.0 is where all the new, all the new fancy kids on the block are sort of touting. EOS is one of them. There's ICX. Now Yuan Chain is also blockchain 3.0. This is essentially a platform that boasts transaction speeds of above 10,000, above 50,000 transactions per second. So you're talking a much higher level than Ethereum. They're looking for confirmations to be within a second. So Yuan Chain's specialty is that not only is it a blockchain, but it also has a privacy factor behind it. Its privacy is that of Monero. So I know Monero is a fan favorite for a lot of people. It's been around for a long time. Monero has been shifted over as the coin used in quote unquote the dark web, right? Because of its privacy factors. Yuan Chain's platform is going to allow not only for you to build dApps on it, dApps being digital apps, other coins, but also have that privacy factor so that you can remain anonymous. Its core focus is going to be the finance sector. So you're going to see coins like Veritasium, you're going to see coins like Populous Token, and so forth being built on Yuan Chain's technology. And finally, the last factor that makes Yuan Chain so powerful is that it allows for cross-chain communication. So Yuan Chain is, you're going to be able to sort of communicate across various different chains. So various different platforms like Ethereum to Yuan Chain, or Icon to Yuan Chain, or Ven to Yuan Chain. You're going to be able to do things or chains like seamless transactions throughout all those chains on Yuan Chain's platform. So that's very, very powerful. A lot of times coins will have what they call utility tokens to sort of complement them. Like Loopring or Chainlink. Those are what they call quote unquote utility tokens. Yuan Chain has that utility token built into it. So it's very, very powerful stuff right there. And the main reason why I am so bullish on Wanchain or so excited about Wanchain is because come mid-April, which is it's already beginning of April, yesterday they actually made an announcement in Tokyo that they were releasing already 3 new tokens that are going to be built on Wanchain's platform. They're going to be releasing another 3 in mid-April. They're going to be announcing those 3. And this is a really big deal because, as you know, cryptocurrencies is very young. And the only 2 platforms that have more dApps on it are Ethereum and another coin called. So this is a very big deal. Wanchain is going to be already skyrocketed up to 3rd place in that sense. And Wanchain's at an incredible price right now. You're talking about $300 million market cap, comparable to its rivals like Ethereum, which is at one point was at $90 billion market cap, and Neo, which is currently at a $3 billion market cap, but it had a previous high of 9 to 10 billion.
Yeah, and for those people who are trying to say chart one, I personally, I hold a lot of caution. It just hit the market, I think, a week and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So price discovery is still in process. I do think that it's such a great coin that it's going to go places and probably fast. But, for any of the charters out there, personally, I'm not really using a whole lot of TA except for short-term moves. And actually, I want to backtrack a little bit because, Dave, you had asked a question about will regulation hurt cryptocurrency? Was that the
yes?
So one of the things one of the evolutions that I mentioned, I had discussed evolution and exponential evolution. The decentralized exchanges, that's going to be the answer. Okay. So the only way that you can regulate cryptocurrency is if you chase it on the blockchain, and you can, like V talked about, you don't really want to be doing a lot of terrorist activity with Bitcoin because every transaction is trackable. So decentralized exchanges, the choke points for the powers that shouldn't be are these exchanges. So you have an exchange like Bittrex that's here in America. It's actually in Las Vegas. So basically, these people can be blackmailed. They can be, because whenever the IRS comes after you for anything, I call it blackmail.
Just by force.
Force, yeah, let's just call it force. And so you have some other exchanges around the world that are all centralized exchanges, and all you have to do is talk to the right people, and you can either shut it down or manipulate it. But decentralized exchanges are ran by thousands of computers, tens of thousands. It's all a bunch of computers mining. These are all smart contracts. Essentially, it's the same kind of mining that Bitcoin does, but the smart contracts, basically any kind of transaction that happens is ran through a smart contract, and it is decentralized into thousands of computers. And the last time I checked, pointing a gun at a computer or trying to take its money doesn't really do anything. That's the future. I know Komodo is one of the coins that their barter dex is going to come out. I don't know how long it's going to take them. They're in development. They're having successes. They have done plenty of what's called atomic swaps. And atomic swap it's really simple. It's a smart contract that will convert one cryptocurrency into any other currency without having to go through Bitcoin. So there isn't like this trackable situation because Komodo is also a privacy coin. It's not quite as private as, say, Monero, but essentially your transactions can happen through smart contracts in a way that a government is not going to be able to see in a decentralized exchange that a government cannot manipulate. Komodo is a coin. I think it's going to be steady. I don't know that it's going to have a massive rise. I think it's just a platform, and there are many like it. There are decentralized exchanges now, like IDEX, like Fork Delta, that you can go on. And the same thing, you don't have to give them any information. There's no KYC. There's no nothing. You get a number, and that's your account. So already there are solutions to this problem. Sometimes you have to downgrade in technology and work on these less pretty exchanges, but the regulations aren't going to stifle it forever.
No. And, on the heels of all this, guys, the background is the decentralized internet that's happening right now as we speak. So, yeah.
I could see why the central banks are so nervous and afraid, because once everything goes decentralized, you can't go to like Coinbase and try to, tax people, because it'll be completely impossible to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, good luck.
Good
luck trying to track it all down. Exactly.
So that's the long-term view of everything, Dave. I mean, you look at it, people have fears, they have concerns. They're like, is cryptocurrency, it's time to get it. No. it's not time to jump out, folks. It's time to position yourself. You want to position yourself. You want to position it now when the market is down. You don't want to. I mean, so there's that old adage that says, most people, they buy high and sell low. You don't want to do that this time around. You want to come in at when it's good.
So for those people who, they hear cryptocurrency, they hear Bitcoin, they hear all this information, they just don't know what to do. So what do you guys do to teach people how to use cryptocurrency? What do you guys do to show them, what is a good coin, what's a bad coin? I mean, you're educating them. What do you do?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. I'm going to hand that over to Frank. Frank, why don't you break it down, the solution that we have in play? And folks, I've said this many, many times, okay? You can either sit there on the sidelines and do nothing, or you can profit, or you can do things. I mean, we've had, and Cowboy and Z will verify this for you. We've had people who are single mothers, okay, with like kids, where their husbands have left them, okay? And women who have said, you know what, I'm not going to be working an additional second or third job in Macy's spraying fragrances on people. No. And they're trading cryptos, and they're providing a living. So the opportunities are there. And I'm not saying this is going to be for every single person that's out there. But if you want to learn the ins and outs, there is a system set up. There is a place where you can go where you can learn about all this. And Frank, go ahead, buddy. Explain that whole entire thing.
Yeah, well, I alluded to this earlier, that we started the crypto school sort of out of necessity. We were just seeing the need. The type of people who are already in cryptos, there are kind of people. Okay, many of them are people who don't trust the system. They're silver and gold bugs, my kind of people. And at the same time, this requires some technical know-how in order to safely acquire and hold cryptos. And so that's where we started. V and I, with the crypto school, we started at the beginning, and we created a simple, straightforward curriculum. It's just me doing screencasts showing people how to do stuff. And we're building up a library for people to learn at the crypto school. I'll get in. There's two sides of what we do. One is the crypto school video education series that we're always adding to, and the other side is the Watch Us Trade Room. And there's so much value in both of those, depending on where you are in your crypto journey. So for people who are new, somewhere between you haven't gotten into cryptos at all, and somewhere between there and I don't know how to get this or that token, or I don't know where to store it, or I can't figure out how to send anything out of Coinbase. If you're that kind of person, our crypto school video series is for you. And that's a one-time purchase. You get access to it as long as the content is there. And so, that's our education. And that started out super, super simple. Like, we were showing people, here's how to get on Coinbase, and here's how to use the MyEther wallet, which is a really important tool. And from there, we got more and more advanced. We showed people how to use things like Ether Delta, which is now most people are using Fork Delta, which is essentially the same platform. And so our original goal was to take somebody from not knowing how to acquire and hold cryptos to being able to get and store any token they wanted, or any currency that they wanted, any cryptocurrency. So that was the original part. And then we branched out even further with our friends Crypto Cowboy and Crypto Z, and we started offering a second product, which we call Watch Us Trade. And this is really taken what we were doing to the next level. So we have that one-time thing for people who are getting into cryptos. They're new. Listen, if you're an expert, if you're slinging things all over the internet, you're on Binance and you're on MyEther wallet and you're on Fork Delta, the crypto school video series is, you don't necessarily need it for that. Though there are more and more advanced stuff in there for people who want to learn about trading now. So that content's becoming more and more valuable for beginners as well as intermediate users. But what we started doing with Z and Cowboy, we opened the Watch Us Trade Room. It's a monthly subscription service, and it's a chat room. We call it Watch Us Trade. It's not streaming video. We do a lot of videos. we offer a lot of free videos on Rogue Money. We do a show 3 times a week. It's very similar to the one we're doing right now. But the Watch Us Trade is a chat room. It's a chat room that you have to pay to get access to. And Crypto Cowboy and Crypto Z, you are watching them trade throughout the day, in the sense that they're telling you what they're doing, and they're in one part of the room. In another part of the room, they're answering questions about it and talking about it. And another part of the room, people are just talking about stuff and having fun. We're building an incredible community of people there. And I found two things, my sort of 2 cents on who this is for. If you're interested in the Watch Us Trade part of our business at the Crypto School, there's the obvious, and I alluded to this before, we have this rapidly growing crypto market. You can profit from the growth of the whole market without having to guess right about which token and which company to get in the ICO or to, hodl or whatever it is. So instead of hoping and praying that your picks are going to pan out in the future, which we all do a little of that, I'm not knocking that, I still do some of that. Instead of just hoping that your picks work out, you can benefit from the explosive growth of what we're all anticipating in the whole of the crypto market. So that's one reason to be involved in Watch Us Trade. And we've had this trade room only during the worst market in recent memory. We've been in a terrible bear market. And despite that, these guys have found opportunities for gains every day. Not only that, these guys know how to protect their portfolio. I said before, I was able in the span of a week or two to turn 150 Litecoin into 210 Litecoin while it was going down, maintain the dollar value of my own personal portfolio and add tokens to it. So when Litecoin goes back up, it will increase the value of my portfolio, which is exactly what I anticipate it's going to do. So you have both of those. You have you're watching guys who they live and breathe the crypto markets. They're not they don't mess around. They're doing technical analysis. They're doing fundamental analysis. They're keeping their ear to the ground. These are they're connected with everything that's going on in the crypto world. And so they not only are they looking at charts, they're looking at news. They're looking at what rumors are floating around. They're being very smart about watching the crypto markets. And so they're pulling the opportunities out of the market wherever they are, even in this bear market. But then there's also this, and I've been thinking about this more and more and more. And that is if you're a person like me where you've been blessed enough to be part of the early days of the crypto market, and we are in early days, very early days. Cliff High talks about this all the time, how this is the beginning of the beginning. People think they missed it. It's like you didn't miss anything. We didn't even get started yet. And if you're like me and you've put some stuff into cryptos and maybe you've had some success with it, maybe you've had some losses with it. But if you have a meaningful investment in cryptos, it is well worth the time, the effort, and the investment to be able to see what's going on in the market as it's happening to protect that portfolio. So just forget about the gains. Just protecting that portfolio by seeing what the real smart traders are doing, that alone is justified. That's just I think Cowboy was talking about it. It's like getting car insurance. Like you just do that because it's smart. Exactly. You want to know what's going on. I've saved many thousands of dollars in the last few weeks just being ready for the downturns, let alone the profits, which nobody's, we know there's lots of other stuff, lots of other rooms out there. Right. And the word on the street is they're all getting killed and kind of laying low. Our guys are calling shots. I can't even keep up with them. Exactly. So it's been a real blessing. And the people in the room, we've done a lot of projects and things in the past and helped some people. We said before we do asset protection. So we help people when they're in a really bad time in their life, usually. Yeah. This is just pure fun. People are just psyched. They're learning, they're saving, they're profiting, all from watching the entertainment and education they're getting in the crypto school, in the Watch Us Trade, as well as the crypto school video curriculum. So we're just really excited about what we're doing right now.
Definitely. Dave, real quick, I just want to hand it over to Nick and Cowboy Z. You guys want to say a quick little 10-second thing? Go ahead, Cowboy.
Okay, yeah. Z got into this. Z and I both got into this at the same time. We worked together at an engineering firm, and one day we, decided to jump in. We jumped in with a few grand. We lost a ton of money. We didn't know what in the world we were doing. Now, we both have the ability to, study, and we learned some things. We really put our minds to it, and so what we've done is really what takes a lot of people years to do. And our strategy is something that is very successful for us. We are actually well over 600% that we talked about. We were over 600% last week. Incredible. And we continue to get profits in this down market. So we preserve books on the way down. And then once we've kind of evened out, we find opportunities where we can not only gain Satoshi, aka we can not only gain Bitcoin value, but we also gain dollar value. We have people telling us in the room all the time, "Oh, I made this much, whatever." So the point is that if I had known somebody such as myself and or Z a year ago, we've made very nicely with this business, just in the investment side, not talking about, running entertainment rooms. Just on the investment side, we have done very well. And had I known somebody to shave the time off of that learning process, I can't even imagine how far along I'd be right now. If I could have preserved my books, Z and I have been through 5 crashes. If we could have preserved our books, we'd be millionaires easily. So, at this point, if I could go back in time and find somebody like me, I'd pay him I'd pay him $1,000 a month. I'd pay him $1,000 a week. Yeah. So that's what I have to say.
Which is not what we're charging, by the way.
No, not what we're charging.
Not even close.
So that's what I have to say. It's a very valuable thing to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I should bring that up. By the way, I didn't mention any prices. It's very typical in the trade rooms in general. People start usually around 400 and go up to 1,000 a month. We're doing a special now just until April 15th. We chose tax day. Up until April 15th, people can get the first month for $149.97. Actually, if they come, we have a special link. So if you're hearing about it, we want to know that you heard about it on X22. So if you come from X22 and you use the special link, you're going to get, for the first month, $149.22. 22 cents. So and doing that huge discount of 70 something cents for you. But that's only going to last. That price is going to go to $299 a month really soon. Yep. So if you want to try out the first month for a measly $149.22, 22 cents, do that before April 15th and use the link. The link we're using so that we know you came from X22. I want to pull it up so I get it right. It's X22reportschool.com. So X, the numbers 22, X22reportschool.com.
And real quick, folks, the reason why, most importantly, what we're doing this is this. All of you know about what's happening with YouTube, what's happening with the demonetization, and how it's affecting a lot of the guys that are, like Dave and like myself, who are content creators. When you go to X22reportschool.com, you're coming in with a link. You're also going to help support this channel, help support Dave. I'm a huge fan of Dave. I've been a big fan of Dave and his work for quite some time, quite many years right now.
Yeah, we all are.
We're all subscribers to Dave's work. We love what he does. He does an amazing job. He has amazing guests on. I've been here a few times. Huge fans. And there's no way I'm going to be sitting here and allowing talent like Dave to go quietly into the night because of everything, all the shenanigans that's happening with YouTube and whatnot. No, folks. People will say, well, V, it's $149. It's going to be $300 a month. How am I going to afford that? You're going to afford it from the profits you will be making in trade. That's how you afford it. We've had people that literally have traded with us for 2 or 3 days and paid for an entire year of membership. That's how serious it is. And there's no commitments. There's no contracts you sign. Try it out for a month. And if you don't like it, hey, you know what? You could leave. If you don't like it, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is you made money.
V brings up a great point. If I could just add one thing, some of the stuff we've been seeing happening to people is a lot of the advice out there in trade rooms and channels and stuff like that is basically, this is the latest greatest thing, get into it. And there's no exit strategy. There's no strategy for taking profit. There's no strategy for protecting your portfolio. And so if you're serious about cryptos, you need to find somebody, whether it's, obviously we want it to be us, but you need to find somebody you can follow who's serious about it and not just saying, look at this awesome token, let's all buy it. Yep. That's great, but that's also a great way, if you made some money in cryptos in the beginning, that's a great way to dilute your portfolio and make it near useless to you, because you throw a few $2,000, a few ETH, a few Bitcoin at every little thing that comes along, and before you know it, the opportunity cost is huge. every token has its own cycle, just as the market has a cycle. Every token has its own cycle. There's a time to get in things. There's a time to get out of them. And just grabbing every single coin you can find and hodling it, hoping that that's going to be the next Bitcoin, I can tell you from my experience, it's a bad strategy. So you need to find somebody, and with the price we're offering right now, Z and Cowboy will do you right. You're going to learn a lot watching what these guys do.
And let's be really careful, because, you can lose. Okay. So, we're an entertainment channel. Now that there's a much higher probability that, Z and I doing what we do, we're actually winning. We're winning. We're gaining dollars. We have a system, and of course people can watch that. And if we're gaining and people are watching our system and they're doing their own research and they're incorporating all this information and their trades happen to follow what we're doing, then the results are going to follow our results. And our results are positive. We're actually winning. We had several people in the last week say, day 4 of April, I'm trading with 0.1 Bitcoin. That's about, I don't know, $800, $600 right now. They say I'm trading with 0.12 Bitcoin. I've paid for my entire month at the new price. We have people that when Bitcoin was falling hard, like, in the last month or so, we had people say, just because we kind of had an idea of when it was going to drop and all that. And we had people say, oh yeah, I just paid for an entire year just by, getting out and buying back in. So these are the results that can happen.
Guys, I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time and speaking about cryptocurrency, the blockchain, what's going on around the world. And I want to thank Z, Cowboy, Frank, and V for coming on here. Thank you guys very much for just laying it all out so everyone understands what's really going on here. And I'm going to put all the links at the bottom of the video. If you come to the X22 Report site or newsentinel.com, the links will also be on there, so you can link over and find the crypto school, find the trading room, and find everything that you need to do. I'm also signed up in the trading room. I'm going to be learning a lot in there. So you will see me in the trading room just like everyone else. And I'm going to be learning just like you, because I know a little, but that's all I know.
Oh, hey, there's one other little cool thing. I totally forgot. If you use Dave's link, there's actually a special little group you'll be added to for that's exclusive for X22 listeners that come through him. So there's going to be a special little side room where just your listeners will be able to hang out. So just wanted to throw that out there for people. Right, little bonus, yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the spotlight.
It's very
cool. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.